What's up, everybody? Today we're going to talk about the Florida school shooting that happened on Valentine's Day, but hopefully talk about some things maybe you have not heard yet.
Oh, here comes the resident douchebag.
I beg your pardon.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
It's now becoming increasingly obvious that Nikolas Cruz was known to authorities down in Florida. They had received dozens and dozens of tips from concerned citizens about the threats this guy had made online and elsewhere, about stockpiling arms and wanting to shoot up a school. So why didn't they act? What happened? Who dropped the ball? The NRA had nothing to do with this shooting. Anybody with any common sense knows that to be true. So what did happen? Well, a great article came out in the Powdered Wig Society blog just recently, and I highly recommend it. We're going to provide a link below to this article so you can check it out for yourself. But somebody did a little investigation down there before this shooting. This guy on Twitter named The Last Refuge 2 had actually been looking into this issue since 2012 about how school administrators and local law enforcement down there in Broward and Miami-Dade collaborated and colluded to sort of minimize crimes committed by students in order to make their numbers, their figures look better, to make it look like they had less crime from students, more graduation, and by doing this, by minimizing the impact of student crime down there, they were able to receive more state and federal funding. Funny how that works. Basically, administrators able to pad their pockets by getting more funding, by making it look like there was less crime and that their programs were in place down there were actually working, when in fact the truth was being buried. And so this is a well-documented issue here that I'm not going to go through all the little points here and all the links that he provides, but I'm going to provide a link because you need to read this article and check it out for yourself. But they colluded, the administrators and law enforcement down there colluded and created a program that minimized student crime. First, it was minor infractions and misdemeanors that they just would not arrest students for. They just decided to overlook it and brush it aside. It grew into something much worse, where even things like theft and violent crime were overlooked and completely ignored by law enforcement. You're starting to get the picture of how this Nikolas Cruz guy was able to develop and incubate in this environment. And what's even worse is this tells the exact story of why the first responders there, the school resource officer, did not engage, did not do anything. He was taught not to. He was taught not to engage a student committing a crime because this is the environment they created down there. It got to the point where there is an active shooter in a school pointing a weapon, pulling the trigger, and killing people, and you've got a school resource officer that doesn't know what to do because he's taught to not engage. He's taught to look the other way. It's just a student committing another crime, and we've got to keep these figures looking right to receive all this funding, so we're just going to look the other way. That's the accusation I'm making, and it's not a conspiracy. It's well documented. This program was put in place to minimize the impact of student crime, and it festered to the point of ignoring and overlooking a crime to this degree, where 17 people were slaughtered. We also now have details that as many as 3 more sheriff's deputies stood aside and listened to gunfire inside the school as people were being killed and did absolutely nothing. That is shameful. That is pathetic. And it's all the fault of school administrators and the sheriff down there, this Scott Israel idiot, who colluded to create this whole system where student crime is overlooked and ignored, all for the precious almighty dollar. That's what we're dealing with. And so they're quick. Everybody's quick to jump in front of the nearest camera on CNN and talk about the NRA because they want you distracted. They don't want you looking at the truth. They don't want you finding out what really happened down there. They don't want you piecing it together and figuring out that this was all a well-conceived plan. Now, I'm not joining in some of the other conspiracy theories that possibly this whole thing was orchestrated. I'm not saying it wasn't either. I don't know. I wasn't there. But we have evidence that shows that once it was taking place, the pieces were in place to not react to it and not respond. Somebody needs to hang for this because it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous that people had to die so that administrators could keep their cozy salaries and law enforcement could look good on paper. That's unacceptable, and something needs to be done about it.